there's a tremendous amount of wealth of experience up here, and I'm hoping that all of you guys are going to be thinking of some good, tough questions. I would tell you my philosophy on moving up the ladder. The most important decision you're going to make in your life is going to be your first job out of grad school. So the first thing that's happening by getting a graduate degree, in my opinion, is you're establishing that branding. You've taken a risk. You've got costs involved. You've done assessments, evaluated alternatives, made some very important lifestyle decisions, commitments. Going to grad school is a critical demonstration of that ability to take executive decisions, management decisions. And the first job you're going to get will set the tone for your next 5 years to 7 years. And that's going to be especially looking at the young, wrinkle-free, gray-free hair. Look, I got gray hair now, so I'm feeling the age. But I got to tell you, this first job you're going to choose is going to be very important. When I got out of Thunderbird, actually not when I got out, when I was in Thunderbird, I was already interviewing about 7 months before I graduated. And I had about three solid offers on, written offers on the table. And I got to tell you, I pondered those decisions. I went out to meet the companies, not just for the interview, but I had another follow-up meeting. I went out another time to meet a board member of another organization. I did research on the companies. I drove around the neighborhoods where I could think about living, because it's important to live in a cool place and so you can go to work and have a nice, clear mind. So I'm trying to share with you in terms of the path to the management track is be especially critical and think about what your first job and company and boss is going to be, and spend time on it. The other philosophy I would share with you in this, in terms of connect. So the first part of the statement was, how did I begin my career? Very selective on who I went to work for. Not just the company, because there's branding there, but also who's my boss and who's my boss's boss. That's part of your equation. And get to know them. The next thing in terms of making your way up the management ladder positions, in my case, what seemed to be workable for me to take that next step up was actually changing companies, changing organizations. I really like people to have a career track within a company and within an organization, but I think at the same time, if you really want to take those big steps, it may be necessary for you to think about changing companies after a few years. So 2-3 years is about the time you talk to your boss and say, okay, let's talk about, actually rewind. From day one, you talk to your boss about your career pathing development within the organization. But at some point, you're going to need to be ready to take that, time to move on. Because if you potentially stay within the company and, ooh, you get a 5% increase, or ooh, 10% increase, which is unheard of. You're going to be 5%, okay? So you're making, 50 grand. Ooh, that's nothing. If you're going to jump ship, you've got to do $10, $15, $20,000. That's worth it. And the other theme that comes into play when you're looking at your career ladders, besides changing companies, and be very, very careful about doing it too frequently. When I was at Honda, I was there 7 years. Okay? Then it came time to go, thank you very much, next big one. When you're getting ready to change companies, you've also got to include, especially in the early part of your career, being able to relocate. I cannot tell you how many people I interview that say they want to live in California, and they won't move anywhere else. Okay? And that's hard. They have a family, which is really critical. I think companies are being aware of that sensitivity and trying to accommodate spouses or significant partners and families. And there's folks who have kids or single parents. So be ready to relocate as part of that big step. So what I'm sharing in conclusion is really to say, while the internal promotion and internal career tracking is important, you should also know who else company-wide or company-wise is a potential target in a couple years for you, because you might be knocking on their door pretty soon. So select carefully at the beginning, be prepared to relocate, and if you do move out of your company, make sure it's a big increase. Do not switch companies for a couple $1,000. Thanks.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start back at Mark again. If you can just tell the students, provide them with some tips on how they can grab the attention of an employer when, either with their resume, interviewing, whatever things come to mind for you.
I have a small business, and when we're looking for somebody to come into our business, and it doesn't matter whether they're going to do medical billing, or whether they're going to work on a retail side, whether they're going to be a salesperson, or in management, we're looking for somebody that can come in and make an impact. We're looking for somebody that has something to offer us. And that individual, usually for us, is pretty well-rounded. They've experienced different things, and that's helpful, I think, in the decision-making process when they're working for us, when they're left alone to make a decision. And I think that for us, the single biggest factor is what is it that you're going to bring to the organization that's going to help us? And it's one thing to say that, it's another thing to kind of produce that, because if you don't know what we're looking for, you have a general idea in any corporation that you go into what they're looking for, but there may be some specific things that employer is looking for that you may not look for. But if you can show us that there will be a change or results or an impact by you showing up one day, working there, then we're interested in engaging you in more conversation, finding out what it is that you think you bring to the table, and then eventually hire you.
That's a lot of that is exactly what we look for at Robert Half. So kind of looking at this from a Robert Half standpoint, it's what the recruiting managers are looking for in terms of candidates coming in, because we've met with the client. So we've met with gentlemen such as Alexander, and we've gone over what they're looking for and why they've engaged us in a candidate search. What we look for when we get the resume, obviously we're looking for the technical, because the resume is only 10% of you. Okay, so the first thing we want to just see, do they fit the technical requirements of what our client is looking for? Okay, but when we bring you in, that's the other 90%. So we don't know what we're going to get. We talk to you on the phone, but we bring you in, and also employers don't know, when we send candidates out to interview, they have a piece of paper with your name on it and your qualifications, but the other 90% of you is walking in the door, okay? So I think what a lot of employers look for are the soft skills. Will they be able to fit in this organization, in our culture? Okay, they may be able to do the work, but will we be able to integrate them, into our current culture here at this organization? Because that's very, very, very important. I would say more so than the technical side, because many times if there's certain things that they're missing on the resume, they're willing to kind of bypass that, but you know what, we think that they'd be a great fit here. So we coach and try to help our candidates who come to us say, look, this is what they're looking for. Do you think you could do this? Now sometimes it may be things you want to hear, sometimes it may be things like, oh no, I'm just going to pass. It may be it's an overtime, it's a place that has a lot of overtime, fast-paced environment, or it could be it's a very pleasant place to work. They're very selective on who they want to bring in because they have an established culture that they don't want to change. So those are the things that I would say is we will prep you for that, but if you're not going through a recruiter, do some research on the company. If you can somehow find somebody who works in that organization, give them a call, or say, hey, look, tell me about the environment. All right? If you happen to know somebody who works there, that's great, because you want to know what you're getting into, and a lot of times you will not find that during the interview process. You'll find it on day one when you walk in, and it's already too late. Okay, so I would say a lot of times what employers are looking for, or what we are looking for, is not just so much technical, but really soft skills. Okay, how you come across and project in the interview is